Smith. Dean, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you very much.
I have to say, I loved your role in this. You got to play a bit of probably the most normal human being in this wacky movie. Tell me a bit about playing the straight man to kind of all of this madness.
Yeah, it was I just immediately identified when I read the script, I just kind of felt that I knew who this guy was and I could inhabit him. Um and I think he's just the guy. He's he loves his son. He's accepting of his son, and I think he's a guy that he's a bit ham-handed with stuff. He doesn't have any filters, but he's a fix-it guy too. And he's the guy. I think he came into this thing already. It's weird enough meeting another couple, let alone staying in a house with them. But I think he said, you know what, we're going to try to make this work. I mean, it's for our sons. We love them, and we're going to have to try to make this work one way or the other, which I think is, true in real life. Marrying two people is tough, but you're really marrying a whole family, two families, and that dynamic is always interesting and crazy. So, let alone when you introduce a poltergeist. So,
No, absolutely. I would love a dad like Cliff. I thought he was such an interesting dad. I'm like, oh, this is as a gay kid, this is the dad I want, and I love it. Same thing with you and Lisa Kudrow, working together. Can you tell me about working with, did you know her before working? Because my goodness, it felt like you guys have known each other for decades.
I got to tell you, we didn't. But when I shared a house with her, Lisa, and Parker, and I remember showing up, whatever, a few days before, and we just instantly, bonded. She's so smart and comedic genius, if you ask me. And we had just so much fun. We had all these like improvs off camera that ran through the whole show. And Parker Posey too is just I just loved her, and yeah, we just felt it was strange how these things happen, but we just felt immediately um, comfortable with each other, and we were so comfortable that we could hang out and do improvs and do all this stuff. And I think all that then was brought into the movie. Yeah, I felt like I'd known her for. I felt like I'd known her for years, even though I just met her.
I love the idea of Dean, Lisa, and Parker all hanging out. Like I would watch that reality show. I'm not a reality show person, but I would watch you three just talking and just ribbing with each other. No, and I
Yeah.
love your work in horror as well, in horror comedy. What about this genre attracts you? Was it something about the script, or do you like a bit of a spooky good time?
I certainly like a bit of a spooky good time, but yeah, the script in particular, I just thought was, first of all, I think it was important to have, to show two gay men getting married, and to be a dad that was accepting and loving of that. So I thought there was a little bit of that in there. Like, okay, this is, even though it's a comedy and a horror, it speaks to something in our culture right now, and it's kind of important. Um, but other than that, I saw more of the comedy part of it than the horror. And I was really loved when I saw the movie, because I got to see all the, because most of the horror stuff is kind of put in afterwards. I mean, a few of the doors open and things like that, but all the big poltergeist is something that is added in later. So for me, it was a family drama or a family comedy. That's what I kind of thought it was. It felt like, you know.
Yeah, I think I learned the best lessons in life when I'm able to laugh and scream and then learn something nice about humanity as well. So you guys all
Yeah.
put that together. I want to say, Dean, thank you so much for speaking with me today. It's been an honor. I've been a big fan of you for quite some time. So you gave me cool points with my stepdad just now.
All
Like
right, cool.
getting to interview you, it's good for life. I'm good for a while now.
What the hell is going on in here?
It's a demon dog! Kill it!
I'm gonna stick my finger up its ass!
What?
Hello, gentlemen. Thank you for making a movie that has my intersection of spooky and gay. It's rare and it's perfect. I love this so much. No, I want to say thank you guys. It's great. And Kent, a good horror comedy, I think, is hard to nail, especially within that script. Can you give me some insight that you find to balancing? I know comedy and horror, I think, are so similar, but is there some
Yeah.
insight you think to balance those worlds correctly?
It was a challenge for sure to balance the horror and comedy. I try to make every horror set piece have a joke within it, so you're not just like feel like you're going from one thing to the other. And like you know, in a way, the comedy scenes of just the parents talking has horror moments to it too, because they're like having these awkward interactions. So it's kind of like always going like this, but they're sort of like playing the same game, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, they seem they perfectly harmonize, and like you said, it flows really well. And I mean, Craig, your direction here I absolutely adore. And what was it about Kent's work here that drew you to it? I don't normally think of you as the spooky director, so it was good to see you, and I think you did that well, though.
Thank you so much. It reminded me of the movies that I loved as a kid. I'm a child of the 80s. And so I grew up on Gremlins and Poltergeist and Beetlejuice, and in in many ways these were the movies that inspired me to become a filmmaker. So I was a horror movie kid. I read Fangoria magazine, and I'd always wanted to do something in the space, but I knew it had to be a little subversive. I anything I do will have a comedic element to it. So I was just sort of, I don't know, waiting for this script to come, even though it just landed on my desk one day, and it was like, this is exactly what I want to do. It reminds me of these movies I loved, and it's a movie you don't see. It's a genre mashup you don't see done well very often.
Yeah, I agree 100%. You guys made like Evil Dead's gay little brother, which I think is great. I want that more in my life. And Kent, I think you did something amazing here. There's a speech that you give about, Edie Falco's character is just about wanting her son to be perfect so he doesn't get bullied. As a gay parent,
Yep.
my goodness, you nailed something on the head there. Do you think it's easy to deliver these really heartwarming and honest messaging through wackiness and the silliness? I think you're able to deliver a message strongly when, what's that, give the medicine down with kind of sugar. And I think you're able to do that. Do you find it's easy to put your soul into something while also being funny?
Well, I kind of drew from personal experience, in terms of that. Like, I felt, I grew up at a time when like there weren't many gay people. It seemed like there were none on TV. So I think my parents were protective of me and didn't want me to like get hurt. And that's something that like you all have to kind of get past. And I think that's true today, still for parents of young gay kids.
And to
Yeah,
speak to what you're saying, one of the reasons I love that scene is that conversation is very heartfelt. But if you remember the movie, right as it maybe might get a little sentimental, a little too much, there's a little bit of a twist and a little bit of a turn that it takes, which is the spirit of the movie, which I love.
yeah, the spirit of the film is good. It's joyful and it's weird and it bounces around, and there's just such a good energy to it. Craig, I want to say you got some great comedy actors here. I mean, watching Lisa Kudrow and Parker Posey exist in a movie together, I didn't know I needed that. Tell me about working with these fabulous women, and Edie Falco as well, and Vivian. Oh my goodness, Vivian, amazing. Can you speak with me about working with these women and bringing this great work out of them? No, my
It
men
was
are great too, but I like my girls here.
Yes, I get it. It was a dream. I mean, I was sort of pinching myself that I got to work with these women. I've been a massive Parker fan for years, since all of her stuff with Christopher Guest. She's having a bit of a Parker renaissance right now with The White Lotus, which was not planned. It's just all happening because she's wonderful. The comeback, the Lisa Kudrow show, is one of my favorites of all time. No, it was just a dream. I sort of was like, I can't believe Brian Cox came on first, and I think he really allowed these great actors. Said, "Oh, if Brian's going to do it, we'll do it." So I just consider myself very, very, very lucky. And you should know, Parker and Lisa were in a movie called Clock Watchers, an indie in the '90s. You should check out. So this was the first time they reunited, actually.
I'm gonna add that to my
this-
letterboxed watch list. Now, thank you guys so much for speaking with me. It was amazing. I love this film quite a bit. Again, spooky, gay. You got me for life. So thank you guys so much.
Thank